Have you ever felt stuck in a conversation, struggling to find the right words, but only feeling like you're failing? Or even had amazing opportunities slip away simply because you couldn't express your thoughts? If you've ever been in this situation, don't worry, you're not alone. Maybe you've found yourself in a conversation where it feels like you're walking in an endless maze. The person you're talking to can't understand you, and you can't connect with them either. In the end, you just feel exhausted, unheard, and that feeling of fatigue keeps dragging on. But did you know, in a world where relationships are a valuable asset, and words are a powerful tool, mastering communication skills isn't just an ordinary skill, it's actually your superpower. Imagine a situation: a confident person walks into a room and immediately captures everyone's attention. Not because they are the loudest, but because they understand the art of connection. When they speak, everyone listens, eager to hear every word they say. And the amazing part is, that could be you. When you master communication skills, you can not only connect with others, but you can also persuade, inspire, and lead any situation. But do you know, effective communication isn't just about speaking fluently or presenting sharp arguments. It's truly about understanding other psychology, building trust, and creating real impact. Today, I'm not bringing you dry lessons about grammar or vocabulary. Instead, we're going to explore practical techniques that you can apply right away in your daily life to enhance your communication abilities. And I promise you, after watching this video, you'll no longer see conversations as obstacles to overcome but as opportunities to seize, whether it's a crucial interview, an unconnected relationship, or a presentation that needs to make a strong impression. So, are you ready to discover the secrets that will help you communicate more effectively? Join me on the journey to mastering communication skills, a superpower that will change the way you interact with the world around you. 1. Breaking down communication barriers. I'm sure you've encountered situations where, no matter how hard you try, the conversation just doesn't go anywhere. Invisible barriers make you feel like you can't truly connect with the other person. One of the main reasons communication becomes difficult is because we focus too much on ourselves, on how we speak, whether others like us, or if we're making a good impression. But did you know, all of these worries are just figments of your imagination? They are not the truth. They're something you've created from past experiences. These fears are the invisible barriers preventing you from connecting with others and leading to empty conversations. To communicate effectively, you need to change the way you perceive yourself in a conversation. Don't worry so much about whether you're making people like you. Instead, focus on the other person, understand how they feel, what they need, and what interests them. When you shift your attention from yourself to the other person, you'll realize that communication isn't about what you say, but how you make others feel. And one of the most important factors in building strong connections through communication is the ability to listen sincerely. In the next section, we'll explore the art of listening, a skill that most of us think we've mastered, but in reality, we haven't. 2. Listening, the overlooked skill. When it comes to communication, we often think immediately about talking, but in reality, an equally important part is listening. Have you ever noticed that you're planning your response in your head while the other person is still talking? In fact, many of us are listening not to understand, but just to react. This inadvertently creates distance and prevents the development of a real relationship. When you don't truly listen, the other person will feel as though they are not being valued. They can sense the lack of sincerity in the conversation, and this leads to them not wanting to open up to you. This is especially dangerous in important situations such as work, interviews, or in personal relationships. Listening is an active skill. To become a good listener, you need to focus entirely on the speaker, not allowing your thoughts to interfere. Stay silent and ignore distractions. One effective tip is to focus on body language, tone of voice, and what the other person isn't saying. This will help you understand their emotions and thoughts more clearly. Silence your inner voice. Try not to let distracting thoughts take over. Focus completely on the person you're speaking with. Don't interrupt. Even if you intend to help or share, don't cut the conversation off. This will only make the other person feel disrespected. Ask open-ended questions like, How do you feel about this? Will help the other person open up and give you an opportunity to understand their emotions better. Once you've mastered the art of listening, another equally important skill that you need to develop is empathy. In the next section, we'll explore how empathy can transform a conversation and deepen relationships. 3. Developing empathy in communication. Imagine you're in a tense argument, voices are raised, the atmosphere becomes heavy, and it feels like there's no way out. However, if you pause for a moment and, instead of trying to win the argument, focus on understanding the other person, everything could change. That is the power of empathy. Empathy is not just about sensing what others are going through, but it's about understanding and sharing their emotions. When you demonstrate empathy, you create a safe space for others to feel heard and understood. This helps reduce tension, soothe negative emotions, and opens up opportunities to build long-lasting relationships. Pause and reflect. When a conversation becomes tense, take a moment to ask yourself, how is this person feeling? Are they stressed, angry, or anxious? Understanding the other person's emotions will help you adjust your attitude and response appropriately. Acknowledge their emotions. When you see the other person going through strong emotions, such as anger or frustration, acknowledging their feelings can help ease the situation. You don't need to agree with them, but phrases like, "I understand this may be upsetting for you," will help them feel heard. Reflect their emotions. A simple yet powerful technique is to reflect the emotions you sense from the other person. For example, "It seems like you're really frustrated about this." This not only validates their feelings but also shows that you genuinely care about what they are going through. Let me tell you a story. A famous negotiation coach shared that, during a difficult negotiation with a tough client, instead of resisting and countering arguments, he listened and acknowledged the client's frustration. Once the emotions were understood, the conversation shifted in a more positive direction, and not only did he maintain the contract, but he also built a lasting cooperative relationship. Empathy is a powerful tool for resolving conflict and building trust, but this trust can only exist when we are truly consistent in our actions and words. That's when we need the skill of trust building. In the next section, we will explore how trust can become the key to creating influence in communication. For building trust and creating influence. Trust is the fundamental element in building successful relationships, whether in personal life or the workplace. You may have great ideas and impressive skills, but if you don't build trust with those around you, those qualities will be meaningless. Trust is the determining factor in whether you can persuade others, lead a group, or even create change within an organization, company, or community. One of the most important things to remember in communication is that trust cannot be built overnight. It is a long-term process that requires patience and consistency in actions. Think about a long-lasting relationship, whether it's a friendship, a romantic relationship, or in work, all must have trust to survive and grow. Without trust, no matter how hard you work or how talented you are, the results you desire will be difficult to achieve. Trust not only helps create connection, but it is also the key to building influence. When others trust you, your words carry weight and have the power to influence their actions. This is especially important in the workplace and leadership, where trust is the foundation for creating change and driving growth. How do you build trust? Consistency is the foundation of trust. One of the simplest and most powerful ways to build trust is to keep your words and actions aligned. Don't just speak without doing, and don't make promises you can't keep. Always follow through on what you've committed to, even if it's the smallest task. For example, in the workplace, if you promise a colleague or subordinate that you will do something, whether it's a small task or a big one, make sure you follow through on that promise. Each time you complete a task on time and with quality, you not only build trust but also affirm your value in the eyes of others. In personal relationships, consistency is equally important. If you say you will always be there when someone needs you, make sure you actually do. Trust can only exist when your words are backed by actions. No one is perfect, and in the process of communication, you will certainly make mistakes. However, instead of avoiding or hiding your mistakes, admit them and correct them sincerely. Doing so not only shows honesty but also demonstrates that you have the confidence to own up to your errors and improve yourself. When you admit your mistakes sincerely, others will feel that you are reliable and willing to take responsibility. A sincere apology coupled with corrective actions will help you regain others' trust. Moreover, when you can truly change and learn from your mistakes, you will gain long-lasting respect and trust. One of the key factors in building trust is the ability to listen. Listening is not just a passive action, but a skill that requires attention and genuine concern for the other person. When you listen with genuine care, others will feel respected, and your listening awareness will build strong trust in the relationship. This is especially important in the workplace, where listening properly can help you understand important issues, grasp the concerns of subordinates or colleagues, and build a strong relationship with them. A trustworthy leader is someone who knows how to listen, understand issues, and respond fairly. Once you've built trust, you will be able to influence others. Trust is the key to persuading, guiding conversations, and leading important decisions. However, influence is not something that can be achieved through manipulation or coercion. True influence comes from making others feel respected, understood, and sharing common goals. One of the most powerful ways to create influence is to lead by example. Your actions speak volumes. If you want others to trust you, make sure you live according to the values you communicate. Transparency and the ability to be true to yourself are the strongest elements of influence. An influential leader is someone who not only speaks but also leads by example and actions. If you call for effort and determination from your team, make sure you are the first to set that example. Every action you take sends a strong message and persuades others to act accordingly. Telling authentic and moving stories can create profound influence. Stories not only make listeners feel connected, but they also easily sink into their minds. When you share personal experiences, failures, and successes in your development journey, others will trust and admire you more easily. Real stories not only help others understand you better but also create empathy, making them feel that you are not perfect, but you are always trying and can relate to their challenges. The feeling of being genuinely cared for is one of the key factors in building influence and communication. Always show that you care about others' needs and feelings, rather than just focusing on showing off yourself. Simple gestures, like remembering someone's name or asking about their family or work, will help you naturally build trust and create influence. Think of the story of Steve Jobs, one of the most influential leaders in modern history. Jobs was not only the founder of Apple, but he also built strong trust with those around him. He had the ability to persuade his team not just because of his vision, but because he was a role model who could connect deeply with his employees and partners. As a result, he transformed Apple from a small company into a global tech empire. Trust is the critical element that helps you build sustainable relationships and create influence in communication. When you know how to build trust through consistency, admitting mistakes and correcting them, and listening sincerely, you will be able to persuade and lead others naturally and effectively. Trust is not something you can force or demand, it is built through small, persistent, and consistent actions throughout the communication process. When you have trust from others, you not only have the ability to lead but also to create significant change within organizations and in life. 5 Persuasion skills in creating influence. Surely, you've been in a situation where you want someone to do something, but you can't find a way to persuade them. Even if you have clear arguments, if you don't know how to persuade others, all your efforts will be in vain. Persuasion is not a tool for manipulation, it is an art that helps you guide the conversation, helps others recognize the value in what you're sharing, and persuades them to take action. One of the biggest misconceptions about persuasion is thinking that it means manipulation. In reality, proper persuasion is a process that helps others realize that their decision or action will benefit them. It's about sharing, not coercing. A typical example is when you persuade a friend to participate in a community activity. You don't force them to join. Instead, you help them see the value of joining, the opportunity to meet new people, learn new skills, and contribute to the community. You persuade them by pointing out the benefits they will gain, not through emotional manipulation or coercion. Persuasion is not about what you say, but how you say it so that the listener feels understood. The way to persuade others is to understand them, understand what they want, what they need, and what they fear or worry about. One of the most effective ways to persuade others is to find common ground between you and them. You need to understand and assess the other person's psychology. Persuasion is not just about presenting arguments, but also about conveying your understanding, empathy, and ability to provide solutions that meet their needs. Building an emotional connection. When you build a strong emotional connection with others, your words will carry much more power. One of the simplest ways to persuade others is to talk about their emotions. Put yourself in their shoes and use language to connect emotionally. For example, if you're persuading a potential customer to buy a product, don't just talk about the features of the product. Emphasize how the product will help them solve a problem or bring comfort to their lives. When you create an emotional connection, you'll find that others are more easily persuaded. Using stories. A story can persuade much more effectively than just presenting logical arguments. Stories create empathy, helping the listener visualize what you're saying and feel its value. Use real stories to illustrate what you're persuading. Stories not only make your message more memorable, but they also make others feel closer to you and understand you better. For example, when you want to persuade a group of people about the importance of protecting the environment, instead of just providing statistics, you could tell the story of a community that changed its way of life to reduce waste and how this positively impacted their quality of life. Creating urgency. A powerful persuasion strategy is creating a sense of urgency. When others feel there is urgency, they are more likely to act immediately. The simplest way is to create a deadline or a limited benefit. For example, when persuading a customer to make a purchase, you could let them know that the offer is only available for a limited time. However, you need to be careful and ensure that the urgency you create is reasonable and doesn't feel forced. Urgency will only be effective if it is truly valuable and trustworthy. Using the trust of others. A very powerful persuasion strategy is using the trust of influential people. If someone your target audience trusts has already trusted you or your product, they are more likely to trust you too. This is why companies often invite reputable figures to be brand ambassadors. In personal communication, you can also use the trust from friends or influential people within your network to persuade others. If they know that you've been recognized by others, they will feel more inclined to trust you. Applying persuasion in everyday communication. Persuasion is not limited to large meetings or negotiations. In fact, persuasion is a part of our everyday communication. From persuading colleagues to agree with your idea to convincing friends to join an activity, persuasion helps you interact effectively and influence those around you. So how can you practice persuasion every day? Start with small conversations. Every time you want to persuade someone about something, start with simple conversations. Don't view persuasion as a battle. Instead, see it as an opportunity to share and listen. Ask open-ended questions. Open-ended questions help you explore the thoughts and emotions of others. From there, you can build a persuasive argument based on the information you gather. Practice and learn from experience. Persuasion skills will become stronger when you practice and learn from each situation. Ask yourself after each persuasion attempt what worked and what could be improved. Persuasion is an important skill in communication, not only helping you convey your message but also creating influence, changing the thoughts and actions of others. Practicing persuasion is not manipulation, but an art of connection, listening, and sharing value. When you truly understand the other person, build an emotional connection, and use effective persuasion strategies, you will not only excel in communication but also become someone with strong influence in all areas of life. 6. Communication in digital environments and in front of an audience. We live in an increasingly digital world, where communication not only takes place face-to-face but also through digital tools like email, text messages, video calls, and social media. Effective communication in a digital environment can be a significant challenge, as it lacks the visual cues such as body language and tone of voice. However, when used correctly, digital communication can be just as powerful and effective as face-to-face communication. Communication through email, text messages, or video calls requires us to master how we express ourselves, as there is no opportunity to use body language or facial expressions to illustrate our emotions. This can easily lead to misunderstandings or ineffective message delivery. Therefore, mastering some key principles in digital communication will help you communicate more confidently and successfully in this environment. Skills needed for email and text communication. Clarity is key. When communicating via email or text, clarity is essential. A message or email that lacks clarity can leave the recipient feeling confused or unsure about what you're trying to convey. Ensure your message is easy to understand and specific. Use simple language, and avoid overly complex or ambiguous words. For example, instead of writing, "I think we need to discuss the project plan," be more specific, like, "I would like to discuss the project plan and confirm the completion date before Friday." Tone of voice awareness. In digital communication, you cannot adjust your tone of voice as you can in face-to-face conversations. Therefore, choosing your words becomes more important than ever. A sentence can be understood in many ways, so make sure you use a tone that fits the context. Avoid excessive exclamation marks or words that might be misconstrued. For example, in the workplace, when asking someone to do something, instead of writing, "Do it now," express it more politely, such as, "Could you please complete this today?" Response time. In email or text communication, response time is also crucial. If you respond too slowly, the recipient may feel that you don't care or don't have time for them. However, be cautious not to respond too quickly to the point where it seems like you haven't taken time to think about your reply. Make it a habit to respond in a timely manner and maintain professionalism in all situations. Video call communication, challenges and opportunities. Video calls are an increasingly popular form of digital communication, especially in meetings, interviews, or important discussions. Although video calls allow us to see the other person's facial expressions, there are still important factors to consider in order to ensure effective communication. Body language awareness. When communicating via video, body language still plays a crucial role. You need to be mindful of how you sit, move, and especially your eye contact. Ensure that you are looking directly at the camera rather than down at the screen, as this helps create a better connection with the other person. Audio and video quality. Ensure you have a stable internet connection, and that your surroundings are not distracting to either you or the other person. A video meeting that is interrupted due to a poor connection or unclear sound can come across as unprofessional and diminish the effectiveness of the conversation. Preparation and practice. Like an in-person meeting, preparation for a video call is crucial. Make sure you have all necessary documents ready, understand the content of the conversation, and have a quiet space to work from. Practice before the call if you have an important presentation or a meeting with many participants. Communication in front of an audience. Mastering the art of public speaking beyond digital communication. Another important aspect is communication in front of an audience. This is a powerful skill that can help you persuade hundreds, even thousands, depending on the situation. However, speaking in front of an audience always makes many people feel nervous and insecure. Making a good first impression. When you step on stage or into a room full of people, the first impression is incredibly important. Make sure you grab attention from the very first moments with a thought-provoking question or an interesting story. This will help the audience feel engaged and want to continue listening to you. Managing stress. Feeling nervous when speaking in front of an audience is completely normal. However, learning to manage stress is crucial. Practice deep breathing and remind yourself that not every eye is intensely fixed on you. People are focusing on the message you're delivering, not on the minor flaws you might perceive in yourself. Communicating with confidence. When standing in front of an audience, confidence is key to creating influence. Although you may not be perfect, confidence will help you deliver your message more powerfully. Stand tall, maintain eye contact with the audience, and modulate your voice to maintain their attention. This will help you take control of the stage and create influence. Communication in digital environments and in front of an audience are skills that can be cultivated and improved. When you master aspects such as clarity in your message, thorough preparation, and the ability to confidently communicate, you'll not only enhance your work efficiency but also create a strong impression on others. Treat every communication opportunity as a chance to express yourself and build solid relationships, whether through a screen or in person. 7. Communication skills in stressful situations. Surely, you've been in a stressful situation, maybe in an important meeting, a difficult conversation, or even a debate with someone. These situations not only make you feel pressured but can also affect the effectiveness of communication. How can you communicate effectively when emotions are running high and the situation becomes tense? This requires skill and composure. In stressful situations, the most important thing is to keep calm. If you lose your composure, not only will your message be unclear, but it will also increase the tension in the conversation. When you feel confused or angry, take a moment to breathe deeply and remind yourself that you need to be patient. A simple but effective technique to stay calm is to breathe deeply. Stop, breathe slowly and deeply to calm your body and mind. This will help you not only control your emotions but also respond more intelligently in a stressful situation. Active listening. When you're in a tense conversation, it is crucial to listen actively. This not only helps you understand the other person's perspective but also creates space for them to feel heard and respected. Sometimes, active listening is all that's needed to reduce tension and open the door for a constructive conversation. Don't react immediately. One common mistake in stressful communication is reacting immediately without thinking. Emotions can easily make you say things you can't take back. Therefore, before responding, give yourself a moment to think. A simple technique is to pause for a few seconds before providing feedback. This brief time can help you control your emotions and give a more reasonable response. Maintain positive body language. Body language plays a significant role in effective communication, especially in stressful situations. When you maintain an open and calm posture, you reduce the tension in the communication environment. Ensure that you're not crossing your arms or showing expressions of anger or frustration. Instead, keep your body relaxed and maintain eye contact with the other person. Effectively resolving conflicts and disagreements. In many stressful situations, especially when there's a conflict or disagreement, effectively resolving the issue is crucial. One of the important principles in resolving conflicts is finding common ground. Find common ground and collaborate instead of focusing on the differences. Look for common ground between you and the other person. This will help establish a solid foundation from which you can move toward a shared solution. For example, if you're arguing with a colleague about how to implement a project, identify the common goal you both want to achieve and build a plan from there. Avoid personal attacks. In any argument, attacking the person only makes the situation more tense. Focus on the issue rather than blaming the other person. Show respect for the other person's viewpoint, even if you disagree. A phrase like, "I understand your perspective, but I think that," can help ease the tension and keep the conversation constructive. Empathy and finding common solutions. One of the most powerful ways to resolve conflict is to show empathy. When you understand the emotions and needs of the other person, you'll be able to come up with fair and reasonable solutions. At the same time, showing concern for their issue will reduce the tension and create a more positive collaborative space. Coping with criticism. Criticism is an inevitable part of communication, especially in the workplace. However, how you handle criticism determines how others perceive you. Instead of feeling attacked, learn to view criticism as an opportunity to learn and improve. Don't react immediately. When receiving criticism, emotions might prompt you to react immediately to defend yourself. However, instead of rushing to respond, take time to reflect on the criticism. Ask yourself, is there something I can learn from this feedback? Accept and thank. An effective approach is to accept the criticism and thank the person who gave it. This doesn't mean you agree with everything they said, but it shows respect and your willingness to accept feedback. For example, you could say, "Thank you for pointing that out. I will review and improve it next time." Provide constructive feedback. After listening to criticism, respond constructively. You can explain why you did something, but never use it as an excuse. Show your willingness to improve and find ways to correct the mistakes if needed. Communication in stressful situations is a skill everyone needs to learn. Staying calm, listening actively, and responding constructively will help you not only navigate tense situations but also strengthen your communication power. Always remember that in these situations, you're not just communicating with others, you're also communicating with yourself. Mastering your emotions, learning to resolve conflicts, and calmly facing criticism will make you a stronger and more confident communicator in every situation. We've explored many methods and strategies to improve communication skills, from breaking down barriers, active listening, to building trust and persuading others. Remember that communication is not just about what you say, but how you make others feel. Communication is a powerful skill that can change your life. When you communicate effectively, you don't just connect with others, but you also create great opportunities, build lasting relationships, and lead conversations toward positive results. However, as I've said, communication skills are not something you can learn once and for all. To master them, you must practice every day. Start applying what you've learned today in your life, work, and relationships around you. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to like and share it so others can also learn and improve their communication skills. And if you want to continue enhancing your communication skills, make sure to subscribe to the channel so you won't miss the next videos. Finally, remember that every conversation is an opportunity for you to connect and make an impact. Be confident, always listen, and share what you have, because that is the key to becoming an excellent communicator. Thank you for watching the video, and I wish you success in developing your communication skills.